As your Mayor, I'd like today to talk to you about the residential strategy we're about to release. It'll be on view for April and May, inviting your public comment. Over the next 20 years we'll have an extra 35,000 people and we'll be needing to build 17,000 odd homes. The type and quality and where we build these houses is most important. It's a strategy that's really important for the future growth of Bendigo. We need to be prepared, we need to be acting now to make sure that we're ready, and we invite your comment.
About 2 years ago we started the process of developing a residential development strategy. It was actually an update of the 2004 strategy, which was largely on track, but we've found since that in examining some of the data, some of the growth, some of the development, that we needed to update that document. But we also need to think about the next 20 years. Where is development going to be? What are the type of housing we'll need? Which areas should be given priority over others? How do we link this with the integrated transport land use strategy that we've also got under preparation? So these were critical questions in developing the residential development strategy. The research that we've been undertaking for the Bendigo residential development strategy clearly indicates that we need about 1,000 new houses each year to accommodate a growing population of people who are shifting to Bendigo and a birth rate that's growing the population. One of the most important things that we've found is that when you look at the actual range of houses that we're building, that housing stock is not necessarily geared to what the needs of the community are. We know that now more than 50% of people in Bendigo are living in 2 or 1 person households, and yet about 90% of the housing stock is the traditional 3-4 bedroom house. Another thing that we're finding, of course, is that people are shifting to some of the fringe areas of Bendigo, and they're finding that in those fringe areas they're really heavily reliant upon their car, their motor car, to get to all the destinations they need for day-to-day living. So we've also seen a move of people shifting into some of the inner areas. We've had about 40% of all new housing constructed in Bendigo over the last 5 years or so has been redevelopment inside the urban areas. So these are important trends to understand, to manage this change in the demography of Bendigo, the way in which people are living in Bendigo, and the way in which they perhaps in future will want to live. So against that background, we've undertaken a comprehensive review of the residential strategy. We produced a residential strategy in 2004, which basically has panned out roughly as we imagined it. We designated areas for new development. We tried to promote the idea of redeveloping some of the older areas. But of course, this rate of growth has actually exceeded our expectations. And so the strategy is rapidly becoming out of date. So what we've done is over the last 2 years, we've reviewed all the data. We've had a look at the areas that are growing. We've looked at the capacity of Bendigo to grow. And we've decided upon 4 fundamental strategies to deal with Bendigo's growth. 1, we can contain just about all the growth that we need to contain over the next 20 years inside the existing urban growth boundary. But that means bringing on new land, rezoning the land, allowing it to be redeveloped, perhaps ahead of the pace that we saw 10 years ago.
As an industry, we've certainly welcomed the involvement that we've had in the residential strategy. The professional development industry in Bendigo is very strong. It's represented by its peak professional body, the Urban Development Institute, of which I'm the chair, and represent the members and committee here in Northern Victoria. We'd like to thank Council for the opportunity they've provided us in having ongoing dialogue and input, and even detailed strategy sessions in relation to the development of the residential strategy from the initial part of the framework through the process, and we look forward to that continuing. The key with the residential strategy for us is a long-term future for the 3rd largest city in the state, which only has 2% of Victoria's population. The population growth in the state of Victoria will place pressure on Bendigo. Population growth here should be planned well and effectively over that long term, so it can be delivered with community understanding and expectation, and maintain key elements of affordability and diversity of housing stock for a whole range of new people and changing demographic over time. From the time a professional development business purchases a site to the time of delivery of land can be a number of years, up to 5 or 6 years. It's a medium-term process. Within that process, we must have at the start the vision for the type of product that is required, the demographic change in the marketplace and the key elements of infrastructure and other regulatory changes that might occur over that period. The development industry is moving towards best practice product in regional areas whilst maintaining affordability. This is a significant challenge, but we are making significant inroads into that process. That includes provisions of open space well above the statutory requirement of 5%, in some cases in the order of 10 to 20+%. That includes a whole range of hierarchy and network of parks. It includes linking up estates and creating walkable, cyclable communities, and it includes providing provision for and catering for investment in external infrastructure for the community outside the estate. So if the estate is placing some load on additional community resource requirements, that is helped to be met by that development.
Second strategy is to recognise the fact that traditionally Bendigo's development has been quite fragmented. We've often leapfrogged difficult areas. In some cases those were mining despoiled areas, other pieces generally of public land that had a bit of difficulty about developing them. So what we want to do is focus on some of those areas and provide new opportunities for housing. And many of those areas are within 2 kilometres of the Bendigo railway station. They're very close to the central business district. And when we're talking about the central business district, in the plan we actually include the proposal that we want to see about 3,000 people living inside the central business district by about 2030.
Having a vision and a strategic plan is essential to manage the growth and to do it in a way that accommodates all of the needs. And there are some really important things that need to be addressed, like the urban growth boundary, the places that we value and places that we think are just no-go zones. We need to really make sure we're all clear about that and then look at other ways that we can accommodate that housing. We need to think about the size of our housing and look at attracting a higher density of housing within the services that we need, and the university is a good opportunity. If we increase housing around the university, that will be fantastic, and also increasing the housing density around other key places like inner city and some of the satellite suburbs around Bendigo.
I think it's absolutely essential for Bendigo to have a residential development strategy. For far too long it's been haphazard development happening in areas. We don't have the infrastructure to follow it up, but at least when you've got a plan 5, 10, 20 years out, at least developers and everybody in the real estate industry and beyond the real estate industry, taking into account the hospital and everything else that's going on, I think it's absolutely essential that we have it, and full marks to the City of Greater Bendigo for doing such a strategy.
Third element of the strategy is to say, well, where do people need to travel to? They need to travel to schools, they need to travel to shops, they need to travel to where they work, they need to travel to recreation facilities. So we've encompassed this idea of what we call 10-minute neighbourhoods, that within 10 minutes of where you live, you should be able to access a basic range of services and facilities. So whether that's a local shop, whether it's a primary school, whether it's a park. Now, some of the older areas of Bendigo actually encompass all these elements. They've been brilliantly designed from the past, but what we're finding is that some of the newer suburbs, yes, you can access facilities, but even kids are dependent upon their parents to drive them to these facilities. We want to make those new communities and retrofit some of the older communities so people can walk and cycle and they can get to those facilities easily and without depending upon a motor car.
If you want a place to be walkable, it has to be diverse. It has to, in other words, have things that people can walk to. It has to have good design in the sense that blocks must be short, there should be permeability, you should be able to walk through intersections very, very easily. The destinations have to be accessible, so it has to be close to where there is work and shops and schools and so on. And the distance to transit needs to be minimised. And density also, to provide the sheer number of people that services will need, is part of the picture. But don't let us run away with the idea that it's all about densification. It isn't. It's about a combination of things that will support higher density developments as well. Walkability lies absolutely at the heart of almost anything that anybody in the room from council is trying to do. You're trying obviously to keep costs down, to bring economic vitality to the city, to improve security and safety, to have democratic engagement and environmental sustainability. All of those things are critically important to the operation of a city. And for those of you in the room involved in new developments and whether residential or otherwise, many of those things will be important to you as well. So walking and walkability really lies so much at the heart of almost everything that we're trying to achieve.
The fourth element of the strategy is to make sure that we're on track. Now what we need to do is, each 2 years we'll be doing a State of the City housing report. We'll be examining what development has happened where, is it in accordance with the strategy, are we keeping pace with demand, have we got enough houses of the type we need. And so that biennial report will provide the monitoring that we need. And our aim is to always have at least 7 years of land supply ready for development, because that's the lead time that most of the developers need. They need that time to plan, to prepare, in some cases to get land rezoned, and then to bring that onto the market. So those four elements underpin the residential development strategy. A fixed urban growth boundary, a concentration around building 10-minute neighbourhoods, about changing the mix of housing in many of the infill areas that we've got opportunities to do so, and then having a monitoring process every 2 years to make sure that we're on track.
It's very important for Bendigo to plan for the future. I'm a mother of 2 children and also a planning student at Trevor University, and also have had experience in the development industry. I took part in the community side of the strategy, and I must admit I was disappointed in the number of people that attended the community workshops, because I know they're all very happy to complain about where the City of Bendigo is going in regards to strategies and planning, but when they get the opportunity to stand up and speak, they don't actually take that opportunity. So I think it's fantastic that the City of Bendigo do take the chance to do a study and plan for our future.
The Bendigo Residential Development Strategy is now out on public display. We're encouraging people over April and May to examine a copy. You can download a copy from the Council's website, you can phone Council, we'll send you out a hard copy, you can call into the Council offices. But we really are interested in hearing what people think about the strategy. Is it a good strategy for the next 20 years? What comments, what suggestions have you got? If you've got proposals, put them forward now to us.
And really this is a really exciting time because there's a lot of opportunity to further enhance the vibrancy of the city and the culture of the city in innovative and interesting and exciting ways. It's going to accommodate all our needs using the existing services and infrastructure, and it's a really exciting time, so I look forward to seeing the outcomes.